Yeah, I do enjoy running my own business, but it can be it's very taxing. Yeah. It's really hard. No one teaches you how to run a business. Yeah. So you're figuring everything out on the fly. And it was really stressful. My wife and I, we got married like right when I started the business. So it was very stressful in a new marriage. And so I figured like, all these coaches of these college football programs say like, oh, we got to have a good culture. And it's like, what does that even mean anymore? Yeah. It kind of gets overused at this point. But for us, it means having, because we obviously live in a day and age where everything is expected to be done immediately. Yeah. There's very little patience. But what we always articulate to our prospects and clients is, look,
you went to UGA, right?
Yeah, I went to UGA. I graduated from there in 2023.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Nice. How old are you?
I'm 27.
Okay. So what did you do between like high school and undergrad?
So good question. So a lot of it was, I was trying to figure things out. So my sophomore year of college, I actually dropped out, and it was really a big coincidence. I dropped out probably the second week of February in 2020. And the reason I dropped out was because I just did not know.
You knew COVID was coming.
I'm getting there. I did not know what I wanted to do. And so I looked at my parents. I said, hey, look, I don't know if college is for me. I want to figure things out. I just want to take a year off to just figure things out. So I dropped out like the middle of February before the add drop period where you wouldn't get like an F for your class without any penalty on your GPA. And then, maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, all over the news, everything's shutting down. And then all my friends, they were still in college. So they were all getting their classes online, getting on Zoom. Like I didn't even get on a Zoom call until like 2 years later because I wasn't in any sort of place that required Zoom. So
lucky you.
Yeah. So I got to, I guess maybe subconsciously, I knew something was coming.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So during that time, what did you do?
So I worked on a farm all throughout high school and college. So just kind of helping with some landscaping stuff on that farm. The guy who owns a lot of property out there on his farm. It's out in Oconee County. Mm-hmm. So just doing a lot of work for him and, just figuring things out. I interned at an accounting firm at one time. So I thought I wanted to be an accountant because my dad's one. Interned there for a few months.
Decided that's not for you?
Not for me at all. And then what I did, so I played football at North Oconee in high school. I graduated from there in 2018 or so. And I always wanted to coach. And so I decided to go back to my old head coach who was there when I was a senior. And I asked him if I could come and coach. And so from 2021 to 2023, I got to coach North Oconee's football team as an assistant coach. So that was a really awesome experience. That actually led me to going back to college. And then I transferred to UGA. And my plan was I was going to graduate with my teaching degree so I could go teach and coach. But the summer going into my last year of college, I sat down, I was honest with myself, and I realized that was not what I wanted to do. Because if you ask any teacher/coach in the high school system, they'll tell you that teaching is 90% of the job and coaching is 10% of the job.
That's not fun.
Yeah, no. And so I realized that I don't want to do this. Yeah. Not to mention the pay's not good. And being a teacher is a very stressful job. Yeah. Kudos to anyone who does it because it's obviously we need it. But I just realized it was not for me.
Okay. So you realized that wasn't for you. What did you do after that realization?
So after that, I was able to switch. I had considered dropping out a second time. And my then girlfriend, now wife, she was like, look, if we're gonna get married, you gotta have something. And I only needed like 6 more classes to graduate. So I switched my degree to history because I was gonna be a social studies education teacher. So that's where a lot of my core focus was. Mm-hmm. So I switched it to history. And then I was able to knock out 6 classes and graduate December of 23.
There you go.
And then that led to me getting a sales job. I was working for Georgia Spa Company. They're a big spa retailer all over North Georgia.
You mean like jacuzzis?
Yeah, like hot tubs. They sell hot tubs, swim spas, saunas, cold plunges. So got to work there for 6 months. And then that led to me, I always wanted to do something entrepreneurial. And I'd kind of dipped my toes in that a few years prior, but never serious.
Like, what did you dip your toes into?
Like drop shipping, that was a big thing during COVID.
Yeah.
Everybody was getting into drop shipping. It was basically you would put a website up and you would sell things like blue light glasses. Those were a big thing back during COVID. And teeth whitening. You just make a storefront, you get it from a supplier and you ship it. So you get your cut. But I just kind of dipped my toes into it.
Mm-hmm.
But summer of 2024, I left Georgia Spa because I started up my own landscaping business.
Oh, cool.
So ran that for a couple of years. I decided in September of last year, after about 2 years of running it, it got to the point where we were growing. But doing it, I realized it wasn't for me, running a home service business. But I learned a lot from it. I learned a lot of great, valuable lessons for it that even something like an MBA, I don't think can teach you.
Yeah.
And so I met a guy named Andy Brown, and he's the one that started up our coaching firm, Lulo Coaching. And so I got talking with him. I met him literally right as he started it, like within weeks. And so I was the first person he hired. And so for the last several months, I've been shadowing him, learning how he does everything. And now I'm doing executive coaching under them.
Cool. What did you do with the landscape company? Did you sell it? Did you shut it down? I'm just kind of curious.
I thought about selling it, and I probably could have.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, one of my good friends is a business broker, so I probably could have gotten it sold, but just all the litigation and having to pay a commission and wait and find a seller, it was just quicker for me to give the list away to some colleagues, because it's hard to sell a maintenance plan because I didn't have contracts, so you can't really sell that. So I had a bunch of landscape colleagues. I just say, hey, look, take care of these people for me. I don't want to leave them hanging dry.
Gotcha.
And then the equipment, I just sold it off. It was easier, quicker that way.
What about that industry or the home services industry made you realize that wasn't for you?
So I found out that I am one of those people that really enjoys sitting behind a computer for hours and hours on day.
You do enjoy that?
I do, which is normally most people that go and start a home service business. I had that mindset of I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But it actually revealed I do. And what I mean by that is when I was out, mowing all these lawns, we also did pressure washing. We even did Christmas lights. So whenever I was out there working at a client's house, I always had my AirPods in, and I would listen to podcasts. I would listen to YouTube videos, and some of the people I would listen to, they would talk about how they're making money through an online business, such as coaching or consulting. And all that really involves is just working with people one-on-one, like you're doing, asking me really good questions and helping them reach a certain goal. And that was exactly what I did when I was coaching football. And I really enjoyed that part of it. But I've also really enjoyed entrepreneurship. So I said to myself, like, why don't I just merge the two of those? I do enjoy running my own business, but it can be it's very taxing. Yeah. It's really hard. No one teaches you how to run a business. Yeah. So you're figuring everything out on the fly. And it was really stressful. My wife and I, we got married like right when I started the business. So it was very stressful in a new marriage. And so I figured, like, I know I can take not an easier route, but a smarter route. And so that's why I decided. And then that's when Andy popped up at the same time. So I think a lot of it was God's timing. And that it was so obvious, it just made sense to roll with him.
Cool. So you meet Andy. He tells you he's starting up this executive coaching business.
Yeah.
Tell me about how that conversation went down, why you thought you'd be a good fit for this, or why he thought you'd be a good fit for this. How did that relationship develop? And how did you get pulled into the business?
Yeah. So I go to it's a fire pit group on Tuesday nights.
Okay.
You could call it a Bible study group, but I don't think anyone there would really call it that.
Okay.
The guy who leads it, he's an entrepreneur here in the Athens area, serial entrepreneur. He's started up many businesses, so very smart guy, but he's also a very spiritual guy. And so he'll lead these Tuesday night fire pit groups at his house. Usually we talk about a Bible verse and we connect it to how we're doing in our lives, with our wives or, most of the other guys there, they have children. I don't yet, but I can still relate to a lot of what they talk about.
Sure.
And it's kind of worked out to where all the guys that come, they're entrepreneurs in some way. It's not that we exclude anyone who's not. It just naturally worked its way out to where, because like-minded people attract other people. Andy came there one night. I met him, and he was telling me how he was starting up his business and how I was wanting to get out of mine. And he was needing some help to get it started, advertising on LinkedIn and such. And I told him I had a little bit of a background in terms of writing on LinkedIn. Okay. So I asked him, hey, I'd be willing to work for you for free if I could just shadow you. And he said, absolutely. Like, he called me the next day. I called him the next day and proposed that to him. And he said, absolutely. And he said, it could even turn into a full-time gig. And I was like, okay, I guess I made a good impression on him the first night I met him, because we had a 30-minute one-on-one talk at that night.
What'd you talk about during those 30 minutes?
Well, he was telling me the reason he started his coaching business is he has a very vast background. He used to be a pastor. He planted a church out in Seattle, Washington.
Oh, wow.
He's also, since he was like 18 or 19, he's always been in some leadership position. He's worked at Walmart in a manager role. He's worked at Waffle House a couple of times as like a regional manager. He worked at a big roofing company in Atlanta and even a few other places. It's a long list. And so he has a very good leadership background. And what happened was he had a career change occur earlier that year. And him and his wife, Trang co-owns a business with him. They had to figure out very quickly what they were going to do. And so he always wanted to do coaching. And he's always essentially been doing it, just being paid by someone else to work in their organization.
Gotcha.
So that's what led to him wanting to finally go out on his own.
Cool. Okay, so you and Andy meet. You have this great conversation. Call him the next day. Mm-hmm. He offers, or you offer to work for him for free and learn from him. How does that translate into what you're doing now? So walk me through, I guess, that process, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So luckily he only lives like in the Gwinnett area. So it's only like a 40-something minute drive from my house. So, much of fall last year, I was driving to his house like almost every day. And I would, see how he does in his interactions. Some of the calls I was allowed to be on, some of the calls, they were more private. Sure. I couldn't be in. So, he let me on the ones I could be on. And, I just got to see how he interacted, how he led teams, how he worked with people. And it led to, eventually starting out, I was mainly doing I ghostwrite for him. Okay. So I helped do a lot of his content for the Lulo page on our LinkedIn. And I even do some of the content for his LinkedIn page. And so that helps us. We're still figuring that out, but it helps generate, awareness of what we do. But then it's kind of transitioned more into, I do less of that now. And I take on more of my own coaching clients. So right now I have one client I'm coaching out in Houston. He owns a plumbing business. And so I'm helping him get everything streamlined for his business.
Tell me a little bit about Lulo. Mm-hmm. What does that name mean? It looks like there's a cross on the logo. Can you tell me a little bit about how it's Christ-based and stuff like that?
Yeah. So it stands for, Lulo stands for love up, love out. So that's based on, Matthew.
Love up, love out.
Yeah, love up, love out. That was a term that Andy came up with. I believe it was what he based the church he planted out in Seattle. Was the core of their foundation. So, love the Lord your God with all your heart, and then love your neighbor. So Lord your God up, and then your neighbor love out. And so that's how it came up. Yeah, that's how it came about. And that's how we want to treat every client. We're obviously, the word Christian, that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people.
Sure.
And so we tell people all the time, a lot of our core values, they are based on the teachings of Jesus. But that does not mean we only work with Christians. We will work with anyone. It doesn't matter if you're an atheist. It doesn't matter if you follow a different religion. We're never going to discriminate, and we're never going to preach on to you as well if you don't want that. Because at the end of the day, we just want to help people have a business where they can love other people and not just, increase revenue to increase revenue, because there's enough, consulting firms out there that help with that. But we want to go a step beyond. We want to focus like, how is your family life doing? Are you able to, go to your kids' soccer games? Are you able to have enough time with your family on the weekends? Are you being involved in your community? And then are you also setting a good example for your employees, your team members, to where they can do those same things?
So a little bit of a holistic approach.
Yes.
Making sure that, business can be great and the bottom line can be good, but if you're not there for your kids at night or on the weekends, if you're not going to their events, what's it really for?
Right.
Like, is it really worth it to make $1 million if your kids don't know who you are?
Right.
Grow up and, maybe hate you or not care about you.
And a term we use a lot is organizational health. So basically what that means is we want to focus on how is the culture. And again, kind of like a loose term, that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. And that's probably a bit of an overused word nowadays. I'm a huge college football fan. Okay. So you'll hear these coaches, all these coaches of these college football programs say like, oh, we got to have a good culture. And it's like, what does that even mean anymore? Yeah. It kind of gets overused at this point. But for us, it means having a lot of clarity and the ability to communicate your vision and values to the rest of your teammates. We don't even like to use the word employees. We like to use, teammates. And it is shocking how few businesses are able to do that. It's a very, very small amount of businesses that are able to know what they're going after and clearly articulate that to their team.
So explain that to me. How does somebody, when I started my business, I wanted to be able to provide for my family, right? Create, a business where I could, put food on the table, make sure the mortgage is paid, stuff like that. When you're talking about the values and the culture, how do you sort of teach people to get that clarity, and what should they be looking for other than bottom line revenue or profit?
That's a good question. And there's a lot of methods, books, ideologies out there about like what needs to be done on how to get to like figure out what your company mission should be and how you delegate and structure things. So, and we live in a day and age where you can find anything about anything at the click of a button. Sure. You have AI figure it out for you. So we're in an age where there's too much information. But we found that a lot of the information out there, while it's really good foundationally, it doesn't help you figure out how to figure out what your mission is or what your core values are. And then even going a step above that, how do you even like position agreements? A lot of the companies we work with, they don't even have actual position agreements where their team member, employee can look at it and they know exactly what they need to do. Because a lot of times when, companies hire people, it's usually just a job posting and it'll have like a vague description of,
responsibilities.
Yeah, these are the responsibilities, like 30,000 foot view, but it doesn't show like the middle level view and the ground level view. And then that just leads to a lot of ambiguity when someone in leadership is trying to articulate something to middle management or to the employee, again, because the expectation wasn't set from the beginning, a lot of things get lost in translation. Employees, team members, they get frustrated because they're getting asked by leadership to do something that they believe is not in their job description, but leadership does believe it's in their job description. They just didn't articulate it well. And it's just back and forth, just a lot of chaos and tension brewing, all because there was not clear communication.
That's a good point. So what did you call that document? An employee agreement or?
A position agreement.
Position agreement.
Yeah.
Okay. And in the position agreement, you mentioned that, a lot of people get the high level 30,000 foot view of what their job is going to be, what the role is in the company. But you said the missing pieces were the middle and then the bottom layer, which I guess the bottom layer is how to do your job.
Yes.
But I'm not clear on what the middle level would be.
Yeah. So, every company will have like an accounting department, and then within the accounting, our finance department to be more broad. And then within there, you have like payroll, accounts receivable, and that payroll and accounts receivable, that would be more of the middle part.
Okay.
But then the lower level part, like the ground level, are the particular SOPs, standard operating procedures. Here is how you enter the payroll every other Friday. Here is how you do this particular thing. Normally, when companies hire someone, they'll teach someone how to do that specific task one time. And it's usually, hey, watch me do this. I'm going to show you how to do it. They do that, and then they expect them to be perfect on it after then. And they don't have a simple sheet they can go to where if they get hung up on something, they can follow that sheet. And that's another thing where, again, communication is not getting articulated well. The person teaching the new employee, they assume after one time of showing them, they'll know how to do it.
Right.
When it's usually, there's too many variables involved for one time to make it clear.
Because the next time, it may not be the exact same situation. There may be different, like you said, different variables involved that change what you need to do.
Exactly.
Interesting. So the SOPs, how important are they, and where should they live within a company's ecosystem? Like, how do you, do you print out a sheet and keep it next to your desk that tells you how to do different things, parts of your job, or how do you manage that?
It really depends on company to company. Some companies, they will print out a whole binder and, they'll have it organized properly for each, for each department, department head, a specific person within the department. It honestly can just be as simple as putting it on a Google Doc and then having it in a Google Drive or a Drive, whatever software you use to share it with all your employees. I think a lot of people will overcomplicate it to think they have to have this big binder or even this very complex Google Drive. It just needs to be simple where someone can go in there, figure out what they need to do, and it's organized properly by, again, department and then a particular job within a department, like such as payroll. That would be, you should know if you're hiring someone, they're expected to do payroll. So that person who's doing payroll, they could go in there, find payroll, and then find the specific SOP for payroll. And then it has all the steps you need to do in there. And something I personally love that I think more companies are doing are Loom recordings. Okay. That's the screen recording software. It's like Zoom, but you record yourself on screen. You walk someone
doing a task.
Yeah, like it usually has a little circle on the bottom left screen of you talking on the webcam.
Okay.
And then you're sharing your screen. It's recorded, and you could literally be showing someone, here is how you go into QuickBooks and you do payroll every Friday. I'm more of a fan of that because I'm a visual person. You can see it, and it cuts out a lot of unnecessary text. But obviously, everyone's different. It depends on what works.
Interesting. How do you think artificial intelligence is going to change any of the stuff that we're talking about? And I guess I'll preface it by, I've been looking into how do I create sort of a firm knowledge base to where if my paralegal or assistant has a question, they can ask the computer the question. It'll pull from a firm knowledge base because we've already had that situation happen 2 years ago, right? Or whatever. That's sort of what I've been working on now, as far as SOPs, how to do things.
Right.
But where do you think AI and technology is taking us?
I think it's taking us to a good place. I feel like you meet two types of people out there right now. You have people that are very pro AI, and you have people that believe AI is going to take over the world. Yeah, it's going to take over the world in 5 years. I don't think it's necessarily that black or white. I think there's a lot of good with AI, but there's also a lot of bad with AI. I think in terms of a business setting, if businesses want it to help streamline things, make things easier, and allow for employees to do higher level tasks, because now AI can do things that, are still important, but someone in a leadership position shouldn't be spending their time on these, like drafting emails. That's an example. AI can free leaders and even middle level and even employees from doing that to focus on more important things. But the problem still lies within organizational health. If you can't clearly articulate to your team members, where you're going and how to even make a position agreement, how are you going to design AI that needs very clear instructions on how to do something? Because if you're, like AI agents, that's become a lot more popular over the last year or two. I'm not that super well versed in AI, but I have a couple of friends that are they actually use AI agents within their business, and it requires a lot of instructions and parameters and specialization. Like they'll have one agent that does a very particular task, and then they'll have to make another agent that may work with that agent. And it requires a lot of build out and infrastructure. But again, all ties back to clearly communicating what needs to be done.
Nice. Yeah. It's scary times, strange times, I guess I'd say, with everything changing, and you hear a lot of noise, but discerning what is true and valuable versus what is just flash,
right,
I think is important. Tell me a little bit more about who you guys work with. Is it any sort of company? Do you have a certain specialty of type of businesses you work with, or is it across the board?
So typically we'll work with anyone that is from the startup phase up to about $50 million in annual revenue.
So I'm out.
But we don't necessarily, you've probably heard the word niching, like what's your niche, what's your specialty. We don't necessarily have a niche, so to speak. I mean, we kind of do, but we kind of don't. So for example, some of the clients we work with right now, like a drywall commercial company, we work with a chiropractor down in Mexico. We work with a trailer manufacturer also down in Mexico. So we have a very, we're dipping our toes all over. We actually did work with a law firm at one time too for a little bit.
They just didn't pay their bill.
I can't speak on that.
Okay. That's a yes.
But even working with certain clients, we found that we don't have some areas like a law firm, you got to have a very specified knowledge to work with someone like that. And we found, there are probably some businesses out there that we could work with them, but we know they would be more well suited to suit with someone that specializes with them because they are such a special, like a law firm or like a doctor's office, even to an extent.
Gotcha.
But to go back to the original question, 0 to 50 million in annual revenue. Me particularly, because I'm an executive coach that works within Lulo, I can go find my own clients. So because I have such a big background in home service businesses, right now I'm just focusing on home service businesses, and as I get more experience, I might work with something like a chiropractor or maybe like a big restaurant or, more corporate. But right now I'm focusing on home service businesses. And then we even have a couple of other team members that they have a couple of decades of leadership experience and they're working with different clients. So it's kind of all over right now, so to speak.
Okay. And as far as your particular background in home services, I've had a lot of guests on that are in the trades and do the home services industries. What advice would you give to people starting out in that business? What's something that they need to get foundationally correct so that their business can be healthy?
So I heard a very successful entrepreneur say this one time. I'm blanking on his name, but I think he's a European entrepreneur. He said he wished when he had started out, he would have focused more on the demand side of his business versus the supply side of his business. Okay. What he meant by that is when most people want to go out and start a business, they say, okay, I got to, get all the equipment ready. I got to get the website set up. I got to get the social media pages set up. I got to get all these things set up. I got to be ready to take on clients. I got to have a process for when I take on clients. I got to have a process for payment, invoices, set my email up for a custom domain, just all these different things.
Right.
But they're all focused on the supply side. Everything I just mentioned, aside from maybe like a website, it doesn't directly bring in demand. It doesn't bring in revenue. So what I would tell anyone is, whether you're starting a landscaping business or an AI consulting business, or, I guess even more home service based, like plumbing business, HVAC business, just go out and find anyone in your network who needs that service, and then go ahead and get them on a waiting list, or, depending upon what your service is, just go ahead and start building up contacts so you can reach out to them. And when they need you, some businesses you can kind of get away with getting equipment at the last minute.
Yeah.
Like a pressure washing business, you can go ahead and get like 10 people that say, yeah, I want you to pressure wash. And then you can go to Home Depot and get a pressure washer.
Yeah. I'll be working that same afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. Landscape business, kind of the same thing too. You can go get a lawnmower. Other businesses, you might have to get equipment up front, but the same principle still applies. Go and focus on getting demand first before you start building out the supply side.
Yeah. So marketing is really key, and getting your name. As far as marketing goes, what sort of channels are you seeing be effective today?
Just in general?
Yeah.
Something I think is gaining a lot of popularity right now is YouTube. Because I forget the exact term, but the algorithm on YouTube is very much based on what your interests are. And I guess like technically all like Facebook, Instagram, they're all catering towards that. But YouTube specifically, if I'm looking at a certain topic on YouTube, and you usually see the big brands pop up or the big channels pop up, I'll watch a few of those videos. But if you notice on that tab on the far right with the other videos you could watch, all the time I'll see videos that pop up that have like 5 views or 0 views, and it's a channel that's
none of my videos.
No. It'll be a channel that's talking about the exact same thing you're searching about.
Okay.
And because YouTube's algorithm, I guess it's getting better at knowing what these newer channels are talking about and pushing it out to people, even if the channel only has like 5 subscribers.
Interesting.
That's something I've seen, and I want to get started on YouTube here maybe in the summer. Obviously it requires a lot of editing, but I think it's a good long-term solution.
Yeah, agreed. That's why we've been leaning so heavily into it.
Yeah.
What is it like for people to work with you? What does it look like? What is your process, approach? I assume since you've got clients in Mexico and all over the country, all over the US, that it's mostly virtual, Zoom and phone calls, but walk us through like what it would be like to work with you and Lulo.
Yeah, so typically we have a tool we use where when we're onboarding someone, they'll fill it out. It's a very simple tool where they rate themselves on a leadership spectrum of, how well they are at dealing with conflict, and, how well they do with communicating their vision and leading their organization. And, we'll get their scores back and we'll go over that score with them. And the questions on there, they're simple, but they're very effective because it requires someone to do a lot of introspection. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the questions we ask. It's those questions when someone's sitting down at the table, they're reading it, they're looking at it, they're thinking about it, and it causes them to like sit back and think, "Wow, that's a tough one."
Yeah.
And we ask uncomfortable, tough questions to get to the root issue of any of the problems that are occurring in anyone's leadership or anyone's business. But we still, we keep it fun. We keep it positive. We're not there just, dogging on people. We're gonna get to like a doctor, we're gonna get to the root issue, but then, hey, guess what? We're gonna provide the next step. We're gonna provide the solution. The 2 main services we offer right now are executive coaching. So that's where we will work one-on-one with a leader in a company. Mm-hmm. And that's the entry point for all of our clients. And then after a couple of months, if we find that the leader of this business requires a lot more hands-on, then we'll upgrade them to a fractional client. We particularly focus on fractional COO work, where we basically are an executive for hire, where we will come in and temporarily or even long-term work with the business. And we're basically acting as the chief operating officer for that business.
Nice. You mentioned that sheet or whatever they have to fill out at the beginning, questionnaire that has some uncomfortable questions. Can you give me an example of one or two of those uncomfortable questions that makes people really think about, like you said, be introspective about how they've been running their business?
Yeah, I think, one of the questions on there, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it'll literally ask you, how do you deal when things are chaotic? When a customer is yelling at you, or when you told
just punch them in the eye.
Yeah. When you told your team members to do something, they don't do it. How do you respond to conflict? How do you respond to adversity? I think that's one of my favorite questions because, usually in times of adversity, that's where, all of our true characters get exposed. And, we're all humans, we're fallible. We're all going to mess up at some point, but it's figuring out different patterns that occur when, a bad thing happens and figuring out, okay, so if this thing happens, you tend to lash out at your team members, or you tend to get passive aggressive, or you tend to do this. How can we eliminate that and, figure out what's directly causing that?
Interesting. Yeah. So I'm just thinking about what I would do if any of my team members listen to me, not whether they would once in a while not listen to me. Team members. Yeah. I don't consider myself a boss. I'm more of a leader. And I like to lead my troops. She's laughing over there. Yeah. Awesome. So, okay, then how long do clients typically work with you? Is it something that they're going to need ongoing help with? Is there a point where you get them to where they're, for lack of a better term, self-sufficient and you can offboard them? Or is this something that's going to be sort of ongoing?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, for fractional engagement, we typically recommend about a year that we work with them. And a lot of that involves working directly in their business, establishing SOPs, establishing processes on how to do different things operationally within a business, because it takes time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the battle we're seeing right now, is because we obviously live in a day and age where everything is expected to be done immediately.
Yeah.
There's very little patience. But what we always articulate to our prospects and clients is, look, just as it took a long time for you to get your business to where it is, it's going to take time to get it to where you want it to be. We say what got you here is not going to get you there.
Yes.
And it's going to require a lot. Well, we know what we need to do on our part, but the majority of the success is for a business we're working with is based on the leadership's response to us working with them, having them be intentional, doing what we ask them to do. Again, everyone's bogged down in this day and age because we have so many different responsibilities. Smartphones make life very chaotic.
Yeah, we're pulled in so many different directions.
Exactly. It's hard to do deep work in this day and age. That's a term I really love by Cal Newport. That's one of my favorite books. Is in this day and age, it's very hard to sit down and do, a small amount of work that really moves the needle. So that's
you're getting distracted left and right.
Yes, I mean it's impossible in this day and age to really stay focused on a single task because I always try to do 3 90-minute time blocks per day of intense focus because Newport points out, science shows the human brain can only do about 4 to 5 hours of like deep, intense work every day. And then, the remaining 3 or 4 or so hours can be more like responding to emails. Like that doesn't require that much concentration. So, but going back to the original question, it really depends. Our hope is eventually we'll help a client get to a point where they don't necessarily need us. They're self-sustaining and they can go out on their own now. But it's kind of, we're finding more and more, it takes a long time to get a client where they would want to be, where they are self-sustaining. Because again, just like we just said, human nature, it's to try to do a bunch of things at once and not get clear progression. So it takes a long time.
Yeah. As a business owner, I definitely find myself putting out fires all day long. You know, I'll come to my desk in the morning, have a plan, and the plan is ultimately disrupted by like 9:30.
Yeah, it's like what that Mike Tyson quote, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah. Like all the emails, you know, questions from the staff, people knocking at the door, unexpected clients popping in, judges put you on a calendar that you have to schedule your whole week around.
Yeah.
So how does a business owner keep focus with so much noise? Like, what is one tip that you can sort of give a business owner to take that first step to get out of that chaotic environment and towards a more focused leadership role?
So I'll answer that question in two parts. So one, it's learn how to say no, something most people are bad at, because I guess it could almost be viewed as a social taboo if you say no to things. Like you're invited to an event, a networking event, you're invited to your neighborhood party, pool party, whatever. I don't know. There's thousands of engagements we're invited to, emails, everything. So learning to say no and limit yourself. But to get more practical, the second part is I have a Google sheet where I list, you know, what are my main missions in life right now? Where am I trying to get? And then I'll break that up, you know, by quarter. So right now we're in quarter 2 of the year. And so that allows me to say, okay, for these 90 days, I can only do so many things. And so I'll put in there, these are the things I'm trying to do in the next 90 days. And then I'll have a weekly section where, okay, week 8 of this quarter, you know, I'm going to try, we're in week 7 right now. So I'm already thinking about week 8, like here are some of the things I can do. And then going to a daily basis, it's having those 3 90-minute time blocks, like I was sharing earlier. That's where it gets really tricky, because if you try to only do 3 90-minute time blocks, you're going to find that it actually limits what all you can do. And that's actually a good thing. I think us as humans, we definitely overestimate how many things we can do. And if we try to do a lot of things, we end up being like a mile wide, but an inch deep.
Yes.
We're doing lots of different things. We're answering lots of emails. We're you know, coordinating with lots of people, and we're signing off on a lot of different things, but are we really moving the needle? So that's what I would encourage anyone to do, is to get everything out of their head. Like one of my coaching clients, he's trying to grow his business, but everything's living in his head. I said, look, it doesn't matter if it's on a piece of paper, a whiteboard, a Google Doc, a Notion template, anything. Just whatever you can do, get it on out of your head, documented, and then week by week, plan out the things you're trying to do. But then, and most people can do that. But the thing where most people can't do it is planning out those 90-minute time blocks every day, because it requires you to say a lot of no's, and it requires you to have a lot of structure.
Interesting. I lost my train of thought there, thinking about that and how I can implement a lot of that in my day-to-day. Because I'm like, okay, I feel a lot of what you're saying. What do you think is, for a business owner who wants to grow their business, what do you think are like the highest and most important tasks that they should be focusing on? And I'll back up a second. A lot of my struggle is being in the day-to-day weeds with my business, right? Doing the work, being on the emails, and making sure my staff has what they need to do their job. But as far as, you know, being the business owner, what do you think is most valuable as far as using their time? It would take a long time to answer that question, but I can still answer it. Get started now.
I can still answer it simply.
You got 90 minutes.
So, you know, delegation, that's, I think, another kind of overused word, is I got to delegate this or automate it or eliminate it. I think there's like some matrix someone made, you either delegate.
Urgent,
it's
important.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Eisenhower matrix. It's sort of based off the Eisenhower matrix, what you just said.
Okay.
But so, you know, there's a lot of things right now you probably could delegate, but a term we like to use is, a lot of businesses, they'll delegate without equipping. And so the equipping part, whoever you're going to delegate it to, you have to be able to equip them to be able to take that task on. So again, that goes back to the position agreements when you first hired them. Do they themselves, whoever you could pass that on to, do they themselves have the bandwidth to take on that new task? If something we'll ask businesses to do sometimes is to just ask their employees like, hey, what are you responsible for? And it's a good question, because sometimes if the position agreements were not done, which is more often than not, they're going to have a hard time. They can tell you what they're supposed to do, but they may repeat to leadership what they're supposed to do. And leadership may say, well, wait a minute, I thought you were also supposed to be doing these things. And again, it all goes back to clearly articulating, communicating, and equipping someone to be able to hand off all those things.
Gotcha. Yeah. It all comes sort of back around, right? It's all connected.
It kind of, like a good analogy, it kind of reminds me of like the Karate Kid, like in that movie, he wants to go ahead and start getting into all the karate moves, but I guess was it Mr. Miyagi, the karate teacher? He's like, paint this fence. Yeah. And he's like, what? Why would I paint a fence? This is a waste of time. But it was helping him. I think it was like work on his defense moves, maybe, the process of painting. And and that's the same thing with making position agreements. Most business owners think, no, the job posting, that's enough. And telling them one time, that's enough. We don't need to go out there and paint the fence.
Wax the car.
Yeah, or wax the car.
Yeah. Wax on, wax off. Very good. What else do people need to know about Lulo Coaching?
Yeah. You can find us. We're on our website's lulocoach.com. That's LULO coach.com. We're primarily on social media wise. We're primarily on LinkedIn right now, but we're eventually going to expand, YouTube and probably even Facebook a little bit. But primarily we're on LinkedIn right now, because that's where most of our clientele is at. So that's where, people can find us. And then, again, as far as what we're doing, it's executive coaching work and then fractional work. But something we're actually starting here in the next few weeks, or probably more few months, is what we call forums, or what most people know as cohorts. That's pretty popular right now, where someone will start a cohort where 10, 20, 30 people are...
Or like in a class.
Yeah, kind of like in a class.
Through like your program.
Yeah, kind of like a curriculum. And so, but we don't like the word cohort, and even like the term mastermind, like people are in all these masterminds. We actually don't like that word at all, because it just, it makes us seem like it just doesn't feel right. So we like the word forums, because we're just simply going over a topic with a group of people, and it's giving them a taste of what it would look like to work with us more full time. So those are kind of the three main services we're working on, we offer right now.
Gotcha. Interesting. Shifting gears, try to ask this question. Who's your favorite founding father and why?
Oh man. I guess Washington. That's
George Washington.
That's probably the one answer you get the most, right?
Yeah. It's a good answer.
Yeah.
Why would you say George Washington?
I guess just because of his leadership and, the vision he had, and, just all the conflict he had to deal with, with England and everything, and just working through that. That's, I think kind of like what we are working with our clients on, he was good at naturally. Helped establish our nation, and, look where it's grown to right now.
Yeah. Great leader.
Yeah.
And you're working with your clients on how to lead their teams.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything else you think the world needs to know about you, Lulo Coaching, what you guys do, or anything like that?
Yeah. I think just know that, again, organizational health, that's the term we like to go to. We want to help businesses grow. We do want them to, bring in more revenue. We want them to be able to make money, of course, but all of that is a byproduct of how their organizational health is. It's, again, how is the culture? Can you clearly document procedures and processes, position agreements? Do you have a good culture? Do people want to come to work for you? All those are the things we want to focus on primarily. And then, of course, the revenue, that's all the byproduct. Because if you focus on all those things I just mentioned, the revenue, that'll naturally increase. So that's kind of like our different focus, I would say. And we don't even like the word consultants. We don't like to consider ourselves consultants. We like to consider ourselves coaches, because, a consultant, for the most part, consultants tell you to do something, they charge you a high price, and then they say goodbye. But us as coaches, we're going to do part of that. We're going to tell you what needs to be done, but we're going to work with you. We're going to lock arm in arm with you, and we're going to be with you through thick and thin. We're there for the tough phone calls when you feel like you want to shut the business down, and we're there. Okay, well, let's try to figure this out. We want to be there for the difficult parts.
Gotcha. Nice. You mentioned LinkedIn a couple times. I have a love-hate relationship with that platform.
I think everybody does. Yeah.
I get on there and it's a lot of like corporate speak that just kind of drives me crazy.
Yeah.
But what is the best way to use LinkedIn for a business owner, and how can I use it to my advantage?
I think I saw this LinkedIn post saying that I think it's like 60, since like 2023 when ChatGPT really took off, probably, I guess even more like 2024 when it got more mainstream, about 60% of anything you read online, especially on LinkedIn, is all written by AI. And, most humans are able to tell for most part if something was written by AI, just like the grammar structure and like the dashes, the M dash, but I think that's a big reason why LinkedIn has kind of become a little watered down. Like you said, it's like the corporate, it's kind of like that, like some of the things you see on there are like kind of cringe. And I think the thing that wins nowadays and people really want to see is just authenticity and a story that happened, sharing stories on LinkedIn. Most of the time when I'm scrolling on LinkedIn and I stop, it's usually because, one, they had a good, graphic or picture or hook and it stopped me, but then it usually is a story and it keeps me engaged. That's usually what I see works best on LinkedIn.
Nice. I like that. We've had a lot of people on here, and over the past 5 months, we've been doing this podcast, and one theme that keeps popping up is authenticity around social media and around marketing and, putting your business's message out there in an authentic way, not a polished, everything is super perfect.
Right.
I think how we grew up looking at certain businesses. But I think now people want more of the real day-to-day. What is it like to work with that business? Who are they really? Like, what are their values? A lot of the stuff that you've been talking about.
It's scarce because there's not much of it out there.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people are fake.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. Elliott Hood, Lulo Consulting.
Yeah, Lulo Coaching.
Lulo Coaching.
Yeah.
Excuse me. You just told me that. It's not consulting coaching. Awesome. How can people find Lulo and work with you guys?
Yeah, so our website's lulocoach.com, so LULO coach.com. And again, we're primarily on LinkedIn, but if you Google Lulo Coaching, usually
there's not a ton of Lulo coaches.
Yeah, there's not a ton of Lulo coaches out there, so that's how you can find us.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great to meet you.
Great to meet you.